Hey spooky people, this is Jackson. It's been a while since we visited Borca, and it's actually been a while since I've played in Borca. I'm souping up for tonight's game, so why not go ahead and post up the recap of the last two episodes that I've been pretty late on. Section 5, Baelor. The gang stays at the Celestia in Levkarest. Reth and Zatan spend some time chatting before Zatan tries to solve the map he got from Hadriana. Downstairs, Camellia and Light get into some gambling sponsored by a Praetorius agent. Phrixus, Hadriana's tiefling servant and right hand, Simon Neuken, a guard captain named Roland, and a bard named Baelor are all gambling as well. Reth tries to endear himself to Baelor, but winds up creeping her out. Next noon, they attend Baelor Swift's concert. Yep, that's the whole joke. It's a tiefling bard. Her name is Baelor Swift. Captain Roland takes the distraction as a chance to alert Lord Light, disguised as Mr. Porrico, that someone else is recruiting Parliament guards. Apparently, Mr. Porrico has drawn away himself on behalf of Ivan Delisnia. Light accepts a copy of the contract to inspect later. Baelor's concert is elaborate and the crowd is wild. At one point, the party hears someone get stabbed and fears for Jaxi, the kobold who is also a bow. Zatan uses the Mace of Terror to part the crowd, revealing a fangirl's corpse. Camellia takes Baelor over her shoulder as her backing minstrels motion towards a small cabin with an extraplanar sanctum. Zatan quickly uses Charm Person on Baelor to hear everything about her story. It seems that Baelor was once an adventurer, but lost her party to a wraith, where she also recovered the Clee lyre. Seeing the mark of Delisnia on the lyre, she brought it to the home of Lord Ivan and was granted an audience. Ivan let her keep the lyre and even became her noble benefactor, encouraging her to play more shows. Baelor is not at all shy about the fact that she has killed multiple fans at her concerts. Zatan tries to convince her to give up the lyre, but Baelor will not, knowing that the lyre must be won by a bard's duel. So, there is a lot going on here, and there are a lot of names, and if you are still watching this and know what's going on, wow, good job. I think before my game today, I am actually going to do something that I have intended to do for a minute, and that is to sort of make a list for my players of all the different players of Borca, all these different NPCs that are going on, just to remind them, who the characters are. This is kind of like watching Game of Thrones and having to pause on the DVD so that the little sidebar can jump out and tell you, this is who Jon Snow's dad is, maybe. My players and I could probably use a little help, because even though the characters, this is happening day to day, minute to minute, it's going to be a month or two since my players have played. I don't expect them to keep an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the NPCs going on. This may also be kind of a weakness of doing a game like this, where it is high intrigue, where there are lots of NPCs that are popping up from random encounters or player suggestions. So you have to be aware of it, you have to provide some help, and that's something that I intend to do today. When a spurned Reth and an invisible Light enter the sanctum, a combat ensues over the lyre. Jaxi is waiting outside, guarding one of the minstrels, but a second one has freed himself and is now fighting for Baelor. Light, disguised as a basic fangirl, holds the lyre, but is close to death. Reth has lost his cover of darkness. Zatan has lost his charm spell and his grip on Baelor. Camellia doesn't know what to do. The conflict will conclude next time. 4 nights have passed since the false auction. There is a full moon tonight. So the last few sentences there are super important. Whether you are posting up a recap like this, or you just want to give yourself DM notes, please give yourself little notes if you're ending on a cliffhanger like this to be like, okay, we no longer have a darkness spell up, somebody's not invisible anymore, and this is also a good note to do at the start of your game if it's a week away to say, hey guys, reset the scene, here's where we are, okay, action. It's really helpful. Let's go to Session 6, Vixen's Den. Things cool off with Baylor Swift when the group decides she isn't worth their trouble and give her back her lyre. Zatan is able to use a disguise as rival diva, Ariadne Grand, to help defuse the situation. Phrixus, Hadriana Tatena's tiefling attendant goodness, catches up to the group bearing a message for Zatan. He doesn't want to give the details of the message yet while Zatan isn't present, at least in their own appearance, but mentions he will be making a trip to the Praetorius-owned Vixen's Den up the road. It seems Hadriana herself is occupied with surveying a spot of land in need of new defenses. The party takes a good rest to reconnect and figure out their next moves. They are still on the lookout for Bodytaker podlings and have concerns about Ivana Baritsi and Ivan Deliznia. This was a very intentional attempt to try to not bring the game back around to the Dark Lords, because they never left, but kind of reconfigure the party's focus towards them. They review Simon Yoikin's report on Voteron Vin's Dragon Hoard to estimate items held at the Ritter auction. Light Ritter also receives a letter from Ivan Deliznia checking in on the festivities and making a few requests. If these requests are met, Ivan himself might appear at the auction. Discussion of recent events and Ivan's interests seem to irk Lord Light, who breaks off from the group as they move north along the Ruby Road. That's a very nice point and not something that I planned. The player was kind of reminding his backstory that we played out in Session 0, where he was held on the grounds of Ivan Deliznia and essentially kept in a vegetative state where the young Ivan, played with him as a playmate, showing him toys and everything, and he was aware for all of that. And now he's back, and he has a grudge with Ivan Deliznia, and that is bigger than anything I wrote in as a DM. So this is just going back to how a very good Session 0 will bear fruit later on in the journey that you may not have even expected. Let's inspect the note from Ivan, and this came in a letter. This is straight out of the idea is straight out of the Van Richten's guidebook. This was written by me. Esteemed Lord Lightrider, I trust the auction planning is coming along nicely. Let's hope everyone's hearts stay in their chests this time. Is it true that Lady Camellia Praetorius returned someone from the dead? Like it's easy? I want to see her do it again. I am considering gracing you all with my presence on the evening. Of course, there would need to be necessary precautions. I trust you have plenty of guards. My Klengards need their annual calibrating. Sir Doulahan will tend to my personal guard, of course. Make sure your guards don't have halberds. They're gauche, don't you think? I prefer bilgus arms. And, of course, I am quite aware of the disease risk posed by the common folk. Why can't they just bathe twice a day like us civilized people? You will have to cut the guest list down to those of pedigree. I find myself craving seafood. Oysters are my favorite. Perhaps you can scrape some up from Lake Blower. According to the Acrotars, it might cost an arm and a leg. Or in Camelia's case, maybe just an arm. Gee. Will there be entertainment? I want to see a dancing bear. Or a caged dragon. Can a dragon's breath make fireworks? Also, I'm sure you have heard of my ingenue, Baylor Swift. You simply must get her to play. Oh, and what's this Everburn Crinkle Tush I've heard about? My butler wouldn't tell me. That's not a problem anymore, so I'm over it for now, but I would be thrilled to see someone model it. Actually, make it 3 models. If you can plan a party to my liking and give word a week prior, I shall surely attend. If I am unable, perhaps there is a way I could observe the festivities from afar. You're magic, right? You'll think of something. Miss you, honor to your house, Lord Ivan Deliznia, ruler of Borca. Yes, I'm having a lot of fun. When they arrive at the Vixen's Den, the group is able to use Camelia's status and Phrixus's acquaintance to secure an entry in the members-only establishment. Lord Light is sheepish of the venue's sensual spellcasters and locks himself away to write letters and scheme. He still remembers how Ivan Delisnia kept him as a plaything and led to his noble father's death in the series of events that made him reborn. He is also not particularly fond of Baelor's fame, nor the favor she holds with Ivan that may lead to her being part of the auction's entertainment. Camellia is comfortable enough in her family's establishment and has rapport with the changeling manager, Javi. Zatan, still disguised as Ariadne, makes a ploy to earn a bed and some income for the night, but grows leery of the situation when they become aware of just how explicit the Praetorius' services at this establishment are. Zatan leaves the den and intends to spend the night with a book under a tree. Yeah, so the Vixen's Den, right? We know what this place is. This was actually sort of like a player inclusion with the inspiration story points. Somebody said, wouldn't it be cool if this player's family had a monopoly on all the brothels in town? I'm like, okay, sure, you're using your story point. Let's make that canon. I'll work it into the story. I don't want to go too far into it. I think there's a few too many of these elements happening right now. If my players are having fun, that's fine, but I think one or two players are having more fun than the others, so I want to reel it back. Camellia is comfortable enough in her family's establishment and has rapport with the change. Oh, I read that. Reth is all too happy to make Frix aware that Zatan is not around, but that he, Zatan's closest friend, can be trusted with Hadriana's message. Frixus takes a bit of coaxing, but seems to take an attitude of rightfully lower standing in regards to the nobles he serves. The subservient tiefling apparently served under Ivana Baritsi before she became more reclusive. Hadriana's request is to make Darsan Pietrita cry in public, possibly even at the upcoming Ritter auction. Frixus admits to Hadriana's interest in the Scalamancer and warns that in her inquiries she caught wind of a top-notch assassin called the Serpent, who is on Zatan's trail. Reth takes the information to heart, dismisses Frixus, and looks for Zatan outside. A cloaked man approaches Zatan. Zatan is disguised as a regular country farmer and plays dumb to the suspicious man's inquiries. This seems to drive off the man until he displays his nonchalant cruelty. He wishes to rid Borca of another dumb peasant, with the only witness being the full moon. Just as the man unfurls his cloak to reveal hissing snakes for arms, another beast lunges forward, black as night shadows and purring with primal might. The investigators level up to level 7. They will roll initiative at the start of next session to face off against the Serpent. But what noble hired this assassin? Certainly, we have a whole lot going on in Borca. This is why I think I need to make some kind of player aid for, okay, here are all the nobles that are going on. This is something that you can kind of draw on. We can kind of make connections so that it's easier to talk about the huge cast we have by now. And when I get that, I'll try to share it on here for those of you who are interested in my Borca ramblings. That is about all for now. We have a lot going on in this adventure. Certainly more from where this started out, which was basically, I was like, we're going to have an auction, and then it's going to be fake, and then there's going to be a real one. Because of me following my player's prompt to have that auction in a month, it has left a lot of space. I've also kind of sent out some feelers for, like, maybe y'all could spend a week on downtime, and this party said, no, actually, we don't like downtime, we want to play it out. So we have a lot of sessions that has really changed up the structure of the campaign, as it would be to where the real auction was going to be big event number 2. Now this is like the central big thing, the kind of climax that the party is working towards. And I like that. I like that this is not an adventure that a book or myself has scripted out I am rolling with whatever the players are doing. They are really driving where they want to go. They got a lot of quest goals from Ivan in his letter to Lord Light, so it will be interesting to see where they follow with those quest goals next. Thank you for this. I don't have as many GM insights in this one because by now the adventure is kind of flowing, but I do hope that you're enjoying this. Please, if you have any questions about how to run your own spooky adventure or work with Borca or some clarifications on what's going on, leave it in the comments. I do like to chat. Till then, have a nat 20 day. Bye-bye.